Hey Marvin, so I wanted to show you those two movable chord forms. I mean, there are many of these, but these two are very common and very useful. By movable chord forms, I mean that keeping your fingers in the same relative place, and you see that the chord form spans the distance of 2 frets in total. So you keep this shape consistent up and down the neck, and you have all the different seventh chords in all the different keys available. And I'll show you this one, and then there's a second one, which is also a seventh chord, which uses different strings. But again, once you have the basic shape, you can move it up and down the neck at will. And I'll give you a quick example of how that's useful. So, you know the basic C chord, which has your ring finger at the 3rd fret of the A string, your middle finger at the 2nd fret of the D string, and your the G string is open. Your first finger is at the 1st fret of the B string. So, okay, that's your basic C major. Now, if you just put your pinky at the 3rd fret of the G string, so now the G string is no longer open. You've added your pinky into the mix at the 3rd fret, and that gives us a C7, C dominant 7 chord. Okay? And it's contained within the inner strings, from the A string in the bottom to the B string on top. Now, so that I don't have to worry too much about how much I'm flailing with my right hand, my strumming hand, when I play this chord form, I use my thumb, I just let it touch the low E string so that it doesn't sound. You shouldn't press it. If you press it too hard, you'll get a note at that fret. So just let it touch the string, and the back of your first finger, the flesh of the back of your first finger can touch the high E string, because you don't, once you start moving this chord up and down the neck, you don't want the high E string to sound either. You only want the inner 4 strings to sound. So you can also use a little right hand control. Don't flail. Strum it with enough of a contained motion so your pick is just striking the inner 4 strings, okay? But for extra insurance, you can mute the outer 2 strings, the low E and the high E, with, their respective finger aids, thumb and first finger. All right? Now, in this first position, we have a C7. If we move it up 2 frets, we have a D7. Move it up another 2 frets, we have an E7. These are all basically the same chord harmonically, but you're going to use one or the other depending on what key or what chord you need in a given song. But for example, this makes that, for example, the song by the Beatles, She's a Woman. You should check it out on YouTube if you can find it. Start with your first finger at the 3rd fret, and your ring finger is at the 5th fret of the A string. First finger is at the 3rd fret of the B string. So you've moved everything up 2 frets. Now you have a D7. Move it down 2 frets, C7, and then G7. So once again, or you just play it straight up G, G7. Okay? So just get comfortable with that basic 7th chord, C chord, add your pinky at the 3rd fret of the G string. Now you have a 7th chord, C7, and just practice going up and down the neck, making sure that all your fingers don't stray, that they keep in the same basic form. And you'll have it down in no time. Now, the other movable form that I wanted to show you is based on the B7 first position, which we play by putting our middle finger at the 2nd fret of the A string, first finger at the 1st fret of the D string, ring finger, 3rd finger at the 2nd fret of the G string, and pinky is at the 2nd fret of the high E string. Now again, we don't want the low E string to sound, that one. So just keep your thumb there, and that'll keep it from ringing. In this first position, we can include the open B string, because this is a B7 chord. Obviously, the open B is part of it, part of that chord. However, as a movable chord form, in the same way that that first form I showed you was, when you go up and down the neck with this form, you actually want to mute that, very important that you mute that open B, okay? Which I do by simply sort of using the back of the flesh of my 3rd finger, my ring finger, okay? This is a fairly user-friendly form, however weird it looks. Just remember, it's 2nd finger, 3rd finger, and pinky are all across the same fret. And the 1st finger is on the D string, and it's 1 fret below. But that's a B7. So actually, if you move this chord up just 1 fret, keep the form together, now you have another way of playing a C7. We learned this, that's a C7, sorry, that's a C7. Middle finger at the 3rd fret of the A string, 1st finger at the 2nd fret of the D string, ring finger, 3rd finger at the 2nd fret of the B string, I'm sorry, the 3rd fret of the B string. You mute the open B string, and your pinky is at the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now, it's the same notes. They're just in a different order. It's as if we took sort of the upper part and started there, And now we've got a different note of the chord on top, which gives it its, slightly different sound. As you get to know these forms, and as you get to know, eventually you remember what they sound like, you can pick and choose which one you think is going to be most appropriate in the immediate context of whatever it is that you're playing. All right? But same deal. You just move it up and down, and you have another seventh chord form. Whatever chord it is whatever note you are playing on the A string. So here, with the second finger, the middle finger at the 3rd fret of the A string, you're playing a C7. 2 frets up, you're playing a D7. 2 more frets up, you're playing an E7, and so on and so forth. Now, that progression that I just showed you, she's a woman, you could play it this way. Same chords, C7, D7, C7, and then G. So you decide which you like better. Or you can pick and choose as you go. All right? So those are 2 movable chord forms that work up and down the neck as long as you only play. These are both using 4 strings out of the 6. So you just confine yourself to strumming and sounding those 4 strings each time, and your chord is right there for you, depending on what key you need it in. So I hope that helps, and shoot me a text if you need any further clarification. And I'll see you soon. Bye.